When a guitarist who shaped the very soul of American music passes away at 84, nobody expected the secrets hiding behind those legendary riffs to surface like this. Steve Cropper passed away peacefully in Nashville, but what people don't know is the final moments before his passing reveal something shocking about his dedication to music. The man who created the sound behind some of the biggest hits in history was still working on new tracks right before the end. But that's not even the most jaw-dropping part of this story. What happened in those rehabilitation facility sessions will change everything you thought you knew about rock legends and their final days. Steve Cropper was known as the guitarist who helped anchor Booker T and the MGs at Stax Records, but here's what the headlines won't tell you. This wasn't just another musician passing away. This was the end of an era that changed music forever. He co-wrote classics like Green Onions, Sittin' on the Dock of the Bay, and In the Midnight Hour, songs that literally defined what soul music would become. But wait until you hear what he was doing just days before his passing. The revelation will blow your mind. Eddie Gore, his longtime associate, was with Cropper on Tuesday at a rehabilitation facility in Nashville, where Cropper had been after a recent fall. Now here's where things get absolutely insane. Even while recovering, even while dealing with the aftermath of that fall, Cropper was still creating. He had been working on new music when Gore visited. Think about that for a second. An 84-year-old legend in a rehabilitation center still pouring his soul into new tracks. The dedication is unreal, but the story gets even darker from here.
The guitarist, songwriter, and record producer was not known for flashy playing, but his spare, catchy licks and solid rhythm chops helped define Memphis soul music. Notice how nobody talks about this angle. While other guitarists were showing off with complicated solos and flashy techniques, Cropper was doing something completely different. He was creating the foundation, the backbone, the secret sauce that made songs unforgettable. Rolling Stone magazine ranked Cropper 39th on its 100 Greatest Guitarists list, calling him the secret ingredient in some of the greatest rock and soul songs. Secret ingredient. That's the key phrase nobody's focusing on. But here's what really sets this story apart from every other musician tribute you've seen. At a time when it was common for white musicians to co-opt the work of black artists and make more money from their songs, Cropper was that rare white artist willing to keep a lower profile and collaborate. While everyone else was taking credit and cashing checks, Cropper was building bridges and sharing the spotlight. The industry didn't work that way back then, but he made it work anyway. His character was as legendary as his guitar playing. His very name was immortalized in the 1967 smash Soul Man, recorded by Sam and Dave. Picture this moment. Midway, singer Sam Moore calls out, "Play it, Steve," as Cropper pulls off a characteristically tight, ringing riff. That shout-out became one of the most iconic moments in soul music history. But wait, there's more to this story that nobody talks about, a slide sound that Cropper used a Zippo lighter to create. He literally used a lighter as a guitar slide. The innovation, the creativity, the willingness to experiment with whatever worked. That's genius-level stuff right there.
Meanwhile, his connection to Otis Redding reveals something even more heartbreaking. Cropper was especially close to Redding and recalled collaborating on Sittin' on the Dock of the Bay, completed shortly before Redding's death in a December 1967 plane crash. The timing of this is absolutely crushing. They created what would become a #1 hit, but Redding never lived to see its success. Cropper finished work on the song in the immediate aftermath of Redding's passing. Imagine having to complete a masterpiece while grieving your friend and collaborator. One of the hardest things he ever had to do was mix that song, and he stayed up 24 hours mixing it. The next morning, he rushed it to the airport. That level of dedication while dealing with that kind of pain shows you what kind of person Cropper really was. But suddenly, his career took an unexpected turn that nobody saw coming. Cropper was in the 1980 movie The Blues Brothers and its follow-up Blues Brothers 2000, portraying the Colonel in the Blues Brothers band. From soul legend to Hollywood screen, Cropper brought that same energy and talent to a whole new audience. The Blues Brothers weren't just a comedy act, they were a legitimate musical force, and Cropper was right there in the center of it all, bringing credibility and skill to every performance. Here's what really blows people's minds, though. Keith Richards, when asked about Cropper, said simply, "Perfect, man." When a Rolling Stone tells you you're perfect, you know you've reached legendary status. Guitar virtuoso Joe Bonamassa noted that Cropper's moves are often copied, saying, "If you haven't heard the name Steve Cropper, you've heard him in song." That's the ultimate legacy right there. You might not know his name, but you felt his influence every single time you've heard soul music.
At the same time, Cropper's early years revealed the foundation of greatness. He was born near Dora, Missouri, but moved with his family to Memphis when he was 9 and got his first mail-order guitar at age 14. A mail-order guitar, not some fancy custom instrument, just a kid with a dream and a guitar that came in the mail. Chuck Berry, Jimmy Reed, and Chet Atkins were among his early influences. He studied the masters, absorbed their techniques, and then created something entirely his own. But the real shock was still coming. Cropper was a Stax artist before the label was even called Stax, which Jim Stewart and Estelle Axton had founded as Satellite Records in 1957. He wasn't just there for the golden years. He was there from the absolute beginning, helping to build the empire that would change music forever. In the early 1960s, Satellite signed up Cropper and his instrumental band, the Royal Spades. From those humble beginnings to becoming one of the most influential guitarists of all time, the journey is absolutely incredible. In 1996, British music monthly Mojo named him the second greatest guitarist of all time, behind Jimi Hendrix. Second, only to Hendrix. Let that sink in for a moment. Every guitarist who ever picked up an instrument, every legend who ever shredded a solo, and Cropper was ranked second behind only Jimi Hendrix. The publication noted his metronome crisp timing, deadly accurate chops, earth-moving bottom-line riffs, sharp, nasty little licks, and grace notes. That's not just praise, that's a masterclass description of what made him untouchable. What happened next in his career proves his versatility was off the charts. Cropper's highest-profile latter-day gig was as lead guitarist for John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd's musical act, the Blues Brothers, playing on their double-platinum 1978 album, Briefcase Full of Blues. Double platinum. In his late 30s, he was creating new success with a completely different project. Most musicians peak once. Cropper peaked repeatedly throughout his entire career.
But here's what people miss about his legacy. Cropper was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1992 as a member of Booker T and the MGs, and was a 2-time Grammy Award winner who also received the Grammy's Lifetime Achievement Award in 2007. The industry recognized his contributions not once, not twice, but multiple times throughout his career. Each award was deserved. Each honor was earned through decades of groundbreaking work. In a 2020 interview, Cropper discussed his career and how he mastered the art of filling gaps with an essential lick or two. He explained his philosophy of listening to other musicians and the singer, not just focusing on himself. That approach separated him from everyone else. While other guitarists were competing for attention, Cropper was serving the song. That selflessness, that commitment to the music over ego, that's what made him truly legendary. Even in his final years, Cropper kept pushing boundaries. Under the band name Steve Cropper and the Midnight Hour, he released the album Friendly Town in August 2024, featuring Billy Gibbons of ZZ Top on lead guitar throughout, and Brian May of Queen guesting on the single Too Much Stress. At 82 years old, he was still collaborating with rock royalty, still creating new music, still relevant. The fact that legends like Gibbons and May wanted to work with him proves his influence never faded.
Pat Mitchell-Worley, president and CEO of the Soulsville Foundation that operates the Stax Museum, stated that Cropper's offerings to American music are significant, but his contribution to soul and R&B music are immeasurable.
Immeasurable. You can't quantify the impact. You can't put a number on how many artists he influenced, how many songs he shaped, how many lives he touched through his music. His songwriting and guitar work shaped the very language of soul music. He didn't just play music, he created the language that others would use to express themselves for generations. The circumstances surrounding his final days add another layer to this already incredible story. Gore described him as such a good human, adding they were blessed to have him, for sure. Even those closest to him recognized they were in the presence of someone special, not just musically talented, but genuinely good. That combination is rare in any industry, but especially in the cutthroat music business. Steve Cropper wasn't just a guitarist, he was an architect of soul, a pioneer who built bridges across racial divides, a collaborator who elevated everyone around him, and a legend who never stopped creating until his final days. His riffs will echo through eternity. His influence will shape musicians for generations to come, and his legacy as one of the greatest guitarists who ever lived is absolutely secure. From a mail-order guitar at 14 to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, from Stax Records to the Blues Brothers, from Otis Redding to Billy Gibbons, Cropper's journey was nothing short of extraordinary. The music world lost a titan, but his sound will live forever in every soul song, every blues riff, every moment when a guitarist decides to serve the song instead of their ego.